everyone, this is Big Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you, and this will be my review of the premiere episode of Lanterns. Now there are likely to be spoilers not only for this episode but also for all other movies and TV series within James Gunn's DC universe, so just beware when going into this overall video. So as we all know, Lanterns is the latest installment within James Gunn's DC universe, his Chapter 1 Gods and Monsters, and this latest live-action adaptation of the famous DC comic books character Green Lantern is a television series that debuted on HBO Max on August the 16th this year, and it will consist of 8 episodes. The original source material features Hal Jordan, a test pilot who becomes the Green Lantern after acquiring a power ring and is a member of a huge part of an intergalactic space force of beings based all over the universe, protecting different sectors of the galaxy. Now this series has an experienced aged Hal Jordan as the Green Lantern coming into full prominence within 1996. The next 10 years sees him meet a new recruit in Jon Stewart, who has to learn over time to manipulate and control the power ring. Based on the location of Rushville in Nebraska, the two have to set about investigating a series of murders that may involve alien beings. Over the course of the episode, we see some back and forth between the two. We learn of Hal's first origin of how he became the Lantern, and we see him later on breaking certain rules and getting in fights in a bar before getting arrested, before later being bailed out by the town sheriff's father, who they visit his house later on. We find out that Jon has a one-night stand with his wife and the husband seemingly knows about it. We see later on they apprehend a suspect who they believe might be an alien, and this comes to the most prominent sequence of the episode where we see Hal interrogating him, and the alien hints that he's part of a powerful organisation who want to potentially attack the Earth before eventually self-destructing in an explosion of which Hal contains with his force field. We then jump 10 years into the future of 2026, where in a snowy winter season we see Jon and the sheriff arrive, where we look at the town which seems to be completely decimated, and they come across a dead frozen Hal Jordan who has been shot in the head minus his ring. Now, as usual, your enjoyment of Lanterns will depend on your preference of James Gunn's tonal sensibilities and direction within this current DC universe. Having already gone through what we've seen from the likes of Superman, Creature Commandos, Peacemaker and most recently Supergirl, the universe so far has been a juvenile, more R-rated, flippant take, very much a deconstruction of which I haven't been a fan of at all. And sadly, Lanterns follows in this same fashion. For me, the opening episode, I found it to be very dour, drab and uneventful, and very muted both in terms of the visuals and also of its energy. This is literally the least interesting and unappealing take on a Green Lantern story. I always mention that the worst thing that you could do in terms of a Green Lantern adaptation is base the story on Earth. By doing a much more nurtured, grounded take, you simply deny the most compelling elements of the source material. In terms of all of the different power elements, from green, which embodies will, we have yellow, which embodies fear, hope, which is determined by the blue colour, and we have red, which determines rage. You have the whole lore and mythology of the Guardians of the universe, and all of the other Green Lanterns that Hal works with, and of course the huge presence of Sinestro. These are all what make Green Lantern truly special in terms of the source material, and these are elements that you can't really do if you have an Earth-based story. And these were the vibes that I got from this opening episode. Yes, it's only the first installment, and yes, we do know, especially from the recent previews of the show, including a 2-minute overall season trailer, we do realise that there will be much more in terms of the extraterrestrial elements, that there will be some involvement of the alien Manhunters, which may involve an emergence of Martian Manhunter himself. We do see some form of spaceships, and we do also know going into this that Sinestro will indeed make an appearance. We also later on will see both Hal and Jon appearing in the Green Lantern costume. There is some hints that Hal has broken some sort of rule or protocol in some way, shape or form, and that the Guardians are looking to replace him. We also know that Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner, who we saw from the Superman film, will also be making an appearance. But at this stage, it looks like the show won't utilise these elements as well as you need them to be. And to be honest, any Green Lantern adaptation really requires a huge extensive budget, And this show feels very low budget and lower scale. It has that CW level in terms of its production, and it just comes across as very uninspired and just bland and not very interesting. Now, admittedly, there is some curiosity in terms of the different timelines that the show is bouncing from in terms of 2016 and 2026. When it was announced, the show was presented as a true detective narrative involving the two lead characters. It's that typical mystery box narrative where you're shown a certain point, and then over the course of the season, we get little clues as to how exactly you arrive at that end destination. And there are certain questions that could be asked, especially when we arrived at the end of the episode. What exactly has Jon been up to for the last 10 years? Where did he go? Has he fully been established as a Green Lantern? Did he accept the offer from the Guardians? It didn't seem like it if he drove to the town location. Is Hal actually dead, or is it a duplicate? Is it an alien monster masquerading as the character? Knowing from the source material, whenever a ring bearer dies or expires, the ring goes forwards to the next nominated person in line, or other sources have it go back to the original Green Lantern Corps in terms of the planet Oa. What exactly was Hal doing sitting at the stadium? Is this something to bait Jon Stewart back to this location? Is it another test of his training? That's essentially what Hal was doing throughout this entire episode, leaving Jon and abandoning him to make his own way. But this episode still had plenty of the James Gunn sensibilities that I absolutely hate. For starters, we have endless amounts of F-bombs right from the bat from the beginning of this episode, and it's just so off-putting in terms of the foul language and really at odds as what we should be seeing from the DC universe, especially when we're looking at one of its foundational characters in Green Lantern. And at this point, this edgy R-rated tone is so cliched, tied, and just boring, and I just don't like it. I also hated the scene where we see earlier on Jon's father getting Jon to stand up against a wall with an apple on top of his head so that he can shoot it with a gun. This was an exercise in trying to get Jon to deal with the aspect of fear. So many things could have gone wrong with this event, and I just found it to be very messed up. Now, the saving grace throughout this entire episode was Kyle Chandler's performance, who does carry a dry wit and a charisma. Very jaded and cynical in terms of a personality, he very much represented a veteran type of detective, something that you would really see much more from a typical 80s cop thriller or drama. Now, many fans may not see this as an ideal interpretation of Hal Jordan, and this is something I can also agree with, but at least Chandler carried a certain personality, which sadly can't be the same said for Jordan Pierre, who might have the physical look as Jon Stewart, but he remains for the most part very stony-faced and expressionless and lacking any type of charisma whatsoever. So hopefully we'll see far more expression and range for this character throughout the rest of the season. And as I mentioned before, there is the question of Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner, who we saw in a Superman movie. If he's the current Green Lantern within this timeline, then what has Jon been doing during this point? It's been hinted that Guy Gardner picked up the power ring after Hal Jordan died. So if that's the case, then why are we exactly invested in Jon Stewart? You shouldn't really have 3 existing Green Lanterns at the same time, because it robs away the special uniquity of the Green Lantern in terms of protecting the Earth sector. So we'll have to see what happens here, but so far in terms of this first episode, I sadly wasn't very impressed. It is yet again more superhero deconstruction, which I really thought we were past the point of making now, but again, this is James Gunn. This is how he sees these heroes, not as the true inspirational figures as what we would associate them, especially in terms of the DC characters. And it seems that we won't really get a true embodiment of these characters until his chapter 1 phases out and we get a further rebooting of the DC universe. So those are my overall thoughts and feelings when reviewing the opening episode of Lanterns. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you have any other further movies, television series, or any other topics within the pop entertainment and culture scene that you'd like to see me cover within the channel, then also let me know in the comments, and I'll see if I can provide further commentary for you on that subject matter within the future. Please also hit and like the subscription buttons and notifications so I can provide you more quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.